Hello, and welcome to the online version of the Charles McClung Public Speaking Contest. My name is Jill Stapleton Bergeron, and I am the director of the contest. To begin the contest, each instructor of Com Studies 210 may select an outstanding student to enter the contest by submitting their outline. From the outlines submitted this year, we chose 8 students to go to the second round. The second round is when the speakers actually give their speeches to a round of judges. This year, those judges were Kathy Cuevas, Kylie Julius, and Chioma Marbury, and they selected the final 5 contestants that you will be watching on this video. The McClung Public Speaking Contest has been a long-standing tradition in the School of Communication Studies, which is led by Dr. John Haas. So let's get started with the contest. Our first speaker will be Reggie Johnson. Reggie is from Kennesaw, Georgia, and is a freshman here at UTK. He is majoring in political science, and in his free time, he enjoys reading, cooking, and watching basketball. Reggie's speech will inform us about African wedding traditions.
Jai McNown Dabuit Sen. Confusing, right? Well, in the South Afrikaans native language, that actually translates to, "You may now kiss the bride." Now, by a quick show of hands, raise your hand if you've been a part of or to an actual wedding. Me too. And I think most of us in here can even agree that getting married can be one of the most exciting, nerve-wracking, and even happiest moments of our lives. But the thing is, South African marriages differ from ours in the most extreme ways. Good evening, my name is Reggie Johnson, and today I'll be identifying the 3 main types of marriages practiced and celebrated in South Africa. Now, most of us in here have either been to or at least seen on television a traditional American wedding. You know, these are the types of weddings where you have the bride and groom standing at the altar, the priest standing in the middle. You always have that anxious flower girl, and you might even have that nervous and crying ring bearer. But in South Africa, they're totally different. Now, no, I'm not South African, but yes, I've been to South African weddings. 3 actually. And each time I go, it's always an eye-opening experience. Now, to get into it, the 3 main types of South African marriages that I'll be talking about today are customary marriages, civil union marriages, and then lastly, religious marriages. Now, I first want to go ahead and explore what a customary marriage is. And according to adamsandadams.com, customary marriages came into fruition during the Customary Marriage Act of 1998. So the big question is, what is a customary marriage? This is basically a marriage between a man and a woman, and is celebrated according to the prevailing laws of South Africa. Now, as you can see here, this is actually a picture of one of the weddings I attended. This is a customary marriage. It's between a man and a woman, and their relationship is monogamous. Now, speaking of monogamy, that brings me to my next point of a key difference. Now, in a customary marriage, there's monogamy and then there's polygamy. Now, monogamy is between 2 people, while polygamy is between multiple people. And in South Africa, this is usually the case when a husband has multiple wives. So now that we know what a customary marriage is, we know who it involves, and we know when it originated, I want to next move on to a civil union marriage. Now, unlike a religious marriage or unlike a customary marriage, civil union marriages involve same-sex couples. So yes, a man and a man or a woman and a woman. Now, like religious marriages and like customary marriages, a civil union marriage still has to be solemnized by an authorized priest. Now, going off of that, according to the Journal of Law and Policy, they published an article back in 2008 basically talking about how civil union marriages came into fruition, which was the Civil Union Marriage Act of 2006. And guys, this act basically determined that the common law in South Africa would indeed create a new part of their constitution, including civil union marriages. So now that we know what a civil union marriage is, we know who it involves, and we know when it originated, I want to lastly talk about religious marriages. Now, although religious marriages are last on my list, don't be fooled. They're actually the most prominent marriage celebrated in South Africa. Now, in a religious marriage, it's usually entered into between the Islamic faith or the Hindu faith. And according to a 2014 article by the Journal of International Law, religious marriages are the most prominent marriage celebrated in South Africa, with 78% of couples marrying under the Islamic faith and 22% marrying under the Hindu faith. Alright, so now I hope that you have a better understanding of those three types of marriages, but before I leave, I do want to do a quick recap. So at the beginning, I talked about what a customary marriage is. I talked about how it's involved between a man and a woman. I talked about how it originated in 1998, and then I talked about its affiliations with monogamy or polygamy. Then I went on to talk about civil union marriages. And guys, this was basically the marriage where it was involved with same-sex couples and originated in 2006. And then guys, lastly, I talked about religious marriages. This was just the marriage that was affiliated with the Islamic faith or the Hindu faith. And I even provided some statistics with 78% of couples going towards the Islamic faith and 22% going towards the Hindu faith. Now, while I have been talking about the key differences and some of the key similarities, I do want to say this before I leave. I want to emphasize that no matter where we are, guys, whether it be South Africa, whether it be America, or whether it be Europe, marriages are always brought together by love and tradition. And speaking of tradition, I do want to leave you with this South African proverb. And actually, up here you can actually see it in the native language. But in English, it basically says, a happy man marries the woman he loves, right? But a happier man loves the woman that he marries. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Abby Mullenix. She is from Columbus, Ohio, and is a sophomore majoring in nursing. Abby enjoys traveling and spending time with friends and family. Her speech will inform us how the COVID pandemic has affected vaccinations in Africa.
Okay, so to start off, I'm going to ask for a little bit of audience participation. I need a couple of people to raise their hands and tell me how you've been impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic this year. Yes?
My grandparents weren't able to visit in town.
Yep, so she said her grandparents weren't able to visit in town. Anybody else? Yes?
Not being able to go to the UT games.
Yep, not being able to go to games in person. Yep.
Having classes online.
Classes online, definitely. Anyone else? Okay. Well, all of these are definitely consequences that we've experienced as a result of COVID-19. But now I'd like to ask a follow-up question. Has anyone experienced a difficulty obtaining medical treatment solely as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic? No? That's exactly my point. The United States currently is not experiencing long-term detrimental effects to their healthcare infrastructure. However, Africa is still experiencing these effects today. I'm Abby, and today I'm going to talk about the two main effects that COVID-19 has had on mass vaccination in Africa this year. Now, we all feel the effects of COVID every time we leave our house. We wear masks and socially distance like we're doing right now. But learning about the consequences that COVID-19 has had in Africa this year will help to give us a new perspective of what's going on in another continent. And as a nursing major with a history of traveling internationally and going on mission trips, I thought that it was important to conduct further research for a couple different reasons. One, as a nurse, I will be administering a lot of vaccinations. And two, it's always been one of my dreams to travel to Africa. And so I thought, why not combine the two and talk to you about them today? And so ultimately, the two major consequences that COVID-19 has had on mass vaccination in Africa this year are the overall decreased accessibility to vaccines and the increased number of epidemics in children. So first and foremost, I'd like to talk about the decreased accessibility of vaccines across the nation. First, mass immunization campaigns across Africa have been completely halted. A study by the Lancet Global Health Journal indicates that mass immunization has been completely disrupted solely in order to try to mitigate the effects of COVID-19. So this is what we see every day with social distancing, wearing masks, and things like that. And this has left countries in Africa completely unvaccinated against cholera, measles, meningitis, polio, tetanus, typhoid, and yellow fevers. And according to the World Health Organization, 27 countries out of 54 in Africa have no access to the measles vaccine, and up to 38 countries have no access to the polio vaccine. And I'd like you to think about this in terms of the United States. With flu season almost underway, what would happen if 25 to 30 states of the United States had no access to the flu vaccine? And pair that with the consequences we've seen of COVID-19. And this is exactly what's happening in Africa right now, but not a lot of people seem to know about it. The second thing that's impacted the decreased accessibility to vaccines is travel restrictions. According to the same World Health Organization article, there are national road blockages and lockdown measures, as we've seen here in the United States. And this can not only prevent healthcare workers from reaching any kind of medical center to administer treatment, but also prevents families from traveling to any potential open clinics in any country in Africa. And not only are there national lockdown measures, but also international lockdown measures. Because of the decline in charter and commercial flights, basically vaccine deliveries have been completely halted to Africa itself. And now that I've talked about the decreased accessibility of vaccines, I'd like to talk about the increase in the number of these preventable epidemics of childhood diseases. According to that same World Health Organization article, 22% of Africa's population has been or will be infected by COVID-19 within the next year. Now, Africa is already known to have a fairly weak healthcare infrastructure, but COVID-19 has completely depleted this already weak infrastructure of funds, healthcare workers, and sterile equipment needed to run these mass vaccination campaigns. So as a result, children are acquiring many preventable diseases. In fact, according to the U.S. National Library of Medicine, National Institutes of Health 2020 journal, it estimates that 80 million children are now at risk of acquiring these preventable diseases. Yes, you heard me right. That's 80 million children at risk of acquiring the diseases I described earlier: cholera, measles, meningitis, polio, tetanus, typhoid, and yellow fever. Now to recap, I hope you feel a little bit more knowledgeable about the two main consequences that COVID-19 has had on mass vaccination in Africa this year, which are the overall decreased accessibility to vaccines and the increased number of epidemics of these childhood diseases. And I'd like to leave you with the words of Nelson Mandela, the former president of South Africa, who said, "There can be no keener revelation of a society's soul than the way in which it treats its children." Thank you.
Our third speaker is Timothy Poteet. He's a hometown boy from Knoxville who is on the exploratory track for a major in biomedical engineering. Timothy is a freshman who enjoys cooking, doing outside activities, and watching sports. His speech will inform us about 4 of the ancient wonders of the world.
Have you ever wondered about the wonders? Hello, my name is Timothy Poteet, and today I'm going to be telling you guys about 4 of the 7 ancient wonders of the world. Now, you may be asking yourself 2 questions. 1, why do I even care about 4 of the 7 old ancient wonders when I have 7 new modern wonders today? Well, let me tell you, it's very important to know about the ancient wonders just because they are insane feats of architecture. And the fact that humans were able to achieve these that I'm going to tell you about in just a minute it's just insane to think about. The second question maybe you're asking yourself is, how do I know this guy's talking to me right now is credible? Well, I'm credible because I've done pretty extensive research over the past couple of weeks just to give you guys some of the most simplistic facts you could probably find on any Google search just in one speech. So the 7 wonders I'm going to be talking about today, if you didn't know already, are the Great Pyramid of Giza, the Lighthouse of Alexandria, the statue of Zeus at Olympia, and the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. So first, let's go right into the Great Pyramid of Giza. The Great Pyramid of Giza, or according to a Boys' Life's article, the Great Pyramid of Giza, published in December of 2014, was made for the Egyptian pharaoh Khufu. Like many pyramids, if not all, they're all tombs for the king or the queen at the time. The Great Pyramid of Giza is a very well-known wonder of the world, but many people just do not know it's actually a wonder of the world. They just know of the pyramid. But the pyramid itself is the largest of all time, biggest ever made, and it took 20 years to build, and it was 481 feet tall. And that might not sound tall just thinking about it, but that is insanely tall. And then it took 2.3 million limestone blocks to build, and this is crazy. Each limestone block could weigh up to 20 tons apiece. And if you think about it, in the desert, way back when, the scorching heat of the desert, they had to carry these blocks miles and miles and miles with no trucks like we have now, none of the modern technology we have now. So that is just insane to think about. Now that I've talked about the Great Pyramid of Giza, I would like to talk about the Lighthouse of Alexandria. Now, if you didn't get it from the name, the Lighthouse of Alexandria was actually made in the city of Alexandria. That city was one of the most early, great, prosperous cities of human history. So, it just makes sense that they would have a wonder of the world. So the lighthouse, like many other lighthouses, according to the Encyclopedia of Ancient Egypt by Margaret R. Bunsen, which was published January 1st, 2012, was really tall. This lighthouse especially was 400 feet tall. It was made in 3 tiers, and each tier was a different shape so it could combat the waves coming up on the shore, so it would withstand the waves, be there for a long time. And this lighthouse, like many other lighthouses obviously, is meant to shine to the ocean, to direct ships, tell ships where the shore is, etc. But this was made in 2080 BC, and during that time, with no electricity, no spotlights, this lighthouse was able to shine 23 miles into the sea, only using a mirror and fire alone, which to me, that's just insane. So, now that I've talked about the Lighthouse of Alexandria, I would like to talk about the statue of Zeus at Olympia. And according to Britannica's article, Statue of Zeus, which was published May 31st, 2015, the statue was 40 feet tall, and it depicted Zeus plated in gold and ivory on a cedar wood throne, and the cedar wood throne had aspects of ebony, ivory, and gold, and other precious gems. And Zeus, if you didn't already know, was the king of the gods. He was highly worshipped. He was like, if you think of Zeus, you should think about the most powerful, strong guy you've ever seen, and he's just sitting on a throne. And they would always go to worship him, and it was just insane that it was a 40-foot tall statue. The gems on it is probably priceless. So that's another wonder. So finally, now that I've spoken on Zeus' statue, I would like to talk about the most interesting wonder that I researched on, and that is the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon, according to Mark Cartwright's article, Hanging Gardens of Babylon, which was published July 27, 2018, it is said that its existence is still disputed among this day. So it may be real, it might not have been real, but for our sake, for these purposes right now, let's just say it was real. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon was built by King Nebuchadnezzar II, and there's not a picture of it anywhere, because there was no cameras or anything, but the drawings that I saw were just beautiful terraces that were at least 60 feet tall apiece, and it was like a city of plants and exotic flowers, and it was colorful, and it was just beautiful all around. So all in all, today I talked about 4 of the 7 ancient wonders of the world: the Great Pyramid of Giza, the Lighthouse of Alexandria, the Statue of Zeus at Olympia, and the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. So now if you were ever on Jeopardy and you were asked, what is the height of the Great Pyramid of Giza, hopefully you will know.
The 4th speaker is Grace Shelton. She was raised in Dunwoody, Georgia, and is a sophomore majoring in biochemistry. Grace enjoys hiking, biking, and relaxing with her friends. Her speech will inform us about skin whitening creams used in India.
Hello. How many of you have heard of whitening creams or skin bleaching creams? Well, even if you've never heard of this product before, I'm sure some of you, especially some of you girls, have seen similar ones like it in your local drugstore. Whitening creams are sold all over the world, but few are as bold or as harmful as the ones sold in India. I am here to inform you about this product and its effect on India's culture. My name is Grace Shelton, and I've been doing research on this topic for the last several weeks in order to give you an accurate presentation. Today I'd like to share with you some basic information about this toxic whitening cream product and its effect on India's culture. Whitening creams in India are sold as beauty products with underlying toxic components. Whitening creams look like any other beauty product in America. According to a 2007 peer-reviewed article from Strategic Management Journal, they come in a lovely little bottle, they have messages on the side, and they have a before and after photo of a woman. Whitening creams are very popular in India. According to the Strategic Management Journal, the industry is valued over $200 million and continues to expand globally. According to a 2017 peer-reviewed report from Frontiers in Public Health, nearly 40% of the participants in this study in India said that they use this product. Women were twice as likely to use it than men, and over 60% of the participants were between the ages of 18 and 24, which is pretty young. Unfortunately, there are lots of toxic chemicals in this whitening cream product. According to the Frontiers in Public Health report, the main toxic components are hydrogen peroxide, steroids, and mercury. Now, they have a diverse effect on people, but the main side effects are skin irritation, thinning of the skin, scarring, kidney damage, liver damage, the list just goes on. And the consumers are led to believe that these products are safe when they are in fact not. Now, since I shared some basic information about this whitening cream product, I would now like to talk about its impact it has on India's culture. Whitening creams are more than just a beauty product in India. Whitening creams represent a gateway to higher status, wealth, and even marriageability. How many of you have imagined yourself in the future as being happy or successful? Well, according to a 2014 journal article from Social Identities, in India, wealth, marriageability, happiness, success, that's all tied to one's skin tone. You see, it's an issue referred to as colorism. Colorism is described as discrimination against someone else in the same race as you just because their skin tone is darker. This is a deeply seated issue in India, and unfortunately it is very common, even normal, to discriminate someone for a job position just because their skin tone is darker. This has a negative impact on body image issues and mental health in India's citizens. Whitening cream ads target a certain demographic and reinforce this colorism. According to the Social Identities, commercial ads target people of color, people in the lower middle class, young people, women, and even men. The ads will do this by showing, young, attractive people having a good time. Then there's someone off to the side who looks sad and lonely with darker skin. Someone comes up to them, gives them the product, they use it, their skin is now magically lighter, and they start getting things they want in life, whether it's a job, a date, or a career. They get it all just because their skin tone is now lighter. As you can imagine, this has a huge impact on young, impressionable audiences in India. Like the product itself, the ads target body image issues and mental health in India's citizens. They pressure them into buying the whitening cream product, and they reinforce this colorism issue. In conclusion, I hope you learned something about this whitening cream product. Overall, I shared with you some basic information about the whitening cream product and how it reinforces colorism in India. My final words to you are just be careful of the ads you buy into, or just don't buy into any ads, and know that you're beautiful just the way you are.
Our final speaker is Madeline Wood, a sophomore from Nolensville, Tennessee. She is majoring in kinesiology, and her interests include soccer, trying new recipes, and doing anything outdoors. Her speech will inform us about the ancient Greek Olympics.
Go ahead and close your eyes for me. Now, I want you all to imagine that you just won an event in the Olympics. Think of all the hard work time and effort that went into cultivate your skill, and it has led you to this one moment. And as a result of all your hard work, you will receive, wait for it, a wreath of olive leaves. Go ahead and open your eyes. Now, I know what you're thinking, but these aren't just any olive leaves. These come from the sacred tree of Olympia. Okay, I get that I probably still haven't sold you on this, but trust me, if you lived back in Greece in 776, you would be stoked by this prize. Hi, my name is Madeline Wood, and today I will be informing you all on the ancient Greek Olympics. Now, I think it's pretty safe to say that we all know what the Olympics are, and we know that they occur every 4 years, but I also think it's pretty safe to say that not many of us know the history behind the Games. I personally love to watch the Olympics, and I'm constantly fascinated by what the human body is capable of. Also, since the Olympics were unable to occur this year due to coronavirus, I thought what better way to still somehow celebrate the event by diving into its rich history. So today, throughout the course of my speech, I will be informing you all on the history as well as the social and political implications of the ancient games. First, I will dive into the history. According to the article, The Legacy of Ancient Olympic Games from IOA.org, the ancient games occurred from 776 BC until 394 AD, and they occurred every 4 years in Olympia, Greece. Now, much like our beloved football games here at UT, it would bring in thousands of people just for one event. The second piece of history I'll go over with you guys is the purpose of the games. According to an article from Penn Museum, the purpose of the ancient games was to honor the Greek god Zeus, who was the main god of their religion. And I believe we all know who Zeus is, whether we learned about him through Hercules when we were little, or possibly Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. Finally, the last piece of history I'll dive into are the games themselves. According to the article, Welcome to the Ancient Olympic Games from the official Olympics website, the events of the Olympic Games included running, throwing, boxing, pankration, which was a mixed martial arts event, and of course, widely known chariot racing. But more interestingly, I think are some of the rules that were implemented, such as all athletes had to compete naked, there were no weight classes in boxing, there were no point systems, and there were no time limits. Alright, so now that we have gone over a little bit of the history, I will now dive into the social implications, starting with social standing. So according to the same article from IOA.org, whenever an Olympic winner would return to their city, they would find their city walls torn down. And this was to symbolize that the civilians who lived in that city felt so safe and secure because they had an Olympic winner in their midst. The second social aspect I'll talk about is gender in the Olympics. And the same Penn Article Museum explained that, much like other ancient times, women were not allowed to attend the games. However, later in history, there was a festival created in honor of Zeus's wife, the goddess Hera. And at this event, it allowed unwed women to participate in athletic events. Finally, the last social implication I'll go over are statues. Whenever someone would win in an event in the Olympic Games, according to Penn Museum, they would have a larger-than-life statue made of them, and it would be placed in the sanctuary of Zeus. And just to put this into perspective, if this was in modern day, this would be the equivalent of having your face plastered on a billboard in Times Square. So it was a big deal. Now moving on to my last point, which is the political implications of the games, starting with wealth. The same Penn Museum article explains that whenever someone won an event in the Olympics, they were massively paid in drachma, which was the currency used back in the ancient Greek times. And the word drachma quite literally means a fortune. Other than being given a fortune, they also received meals for life as well as pension plans. The second political aspect I'll dive into is the Olympic truce. The same Penn Museum article explains that the Olympic truce was sent out every 4 years, and it was basically a military ceasefire that ensured that civilians could travel to Olympia, Greece without the threat of a military attack. Finally, the very last political implication that I will go over are political rallies that were held. And the very same Penn Museum article explains that, much like what we're experiencing today with the presidential elections coming up, they would hold political rallies at the ancient games in which military leaders would discuss shared victories as well as try and form military and political alliances. These were the three main points I wanted to go over with you all today. So in summary, I hope that through my speech you have gained a broader understanding of the ancient Greek Olympics. Just to recap, I informed you all on the history as well as the social and political aspects surrounding the games. So overall, I hope that you have at least gained a little bit more of an understanding of the ancient Olympic Games and maybe even a newfound appreciation for something as simple as a wreath of olive leaves. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed watching your fellow students' speeches and will now go to the voting link to submit your vote for the winner. Please remember to vote for only one speaker.